It is deadline day for Republican presidential hopefuls to officially declare their candidacy in New Hampshire. Just a short time ago, Texas Governor Rick Perry filed his paperwork for the nation's first primary. By the end of the day, we'll officially know who's in, but there aren't expected to be any surprises. But what may be surprising is the rough week for Perry and his rival Mitt Romney. NBC's First Read says both candidates exposed some vulnerabilities in the past few days. For example, according to First Read, quote, Romney tried not to take a hard position on an issue, a referendum on Ohio's law curbing collective bargaining rights that he'd already once supported. And after a day of being criticized, Romney finally told reporters he was 110% in favor of the law. Perry, meanwhile, had a double whammy, his flirtation with birtherism and his campaign's announcement that it would have limited participation at future debates. Joining me now to talk about all of these things, Washington Post White House reporter Ann Kornbluth and Democratic strategist Peter Marajanian. Thank you both for joining us.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So, Ann, let's start off with the news that just happened in the last few hours. Rick Perry again being asked about the president's birth certificate. Let me play his latest comments regarding this issue.
Look, the president's the president, and that's a fact. So the issue of whether or not, I don't think Americans see that as anything other than a distraction, just like I see it as a distraction.
But, and it's a distraction that he put himself in the middle of, and now this all is overshadowing his flat tax or whatever else he may want to talk about. Rough week for him on that alone.
But you're right. He only has himself to blame. He, in his earlier remarks, had said that it was a good issue, birtherism was, and that it was giving Donald Trump something to do. It was interpreted by some as a wink and a nod to the birther movement, to the right, the very far right of the Republican Party, but pretty widely criticized across the spectrum. The correct answer, if you will, to this for quite some time has been he is a U.S. citizen. The president, of course, furnished his birth certificate. At a minimum, the correct answer was this is a distraction. Of course, that's the answer you just played. But I don't think anyone, including the people on the Perry campaign, would now say it was a smart, strategic move to talk about something that's not the substance of this campaign right now.
And, Peter, let me bring you in from the birther issue with Rick Perry to, again, these ever so present allegations that Mitt Romney is a flip-flopper, willing to do or say whatever it takes to finally get into the White House. Are Democrats trying to capitalize on this already? There are reports that the White House is laser-focused, or at least the re-election campaign, laser-focused on Romney and really planning to hit him on this flip-flop thing.
Well, you know, with a nod to Halloween, Tamron, I think he'll go as a chameleon for Halloween on Monday. I mean, this is the problem with Mitt Romney. I mean, he is a raging moderate in his heart of hearts, and that's why he flip-flops on these issues in Ohio, and he says one thing and another. I think his instincts are to run to the middle, and then he has to snap back and run to the right. And it's going to dog him all through the primary season, and it does create a lot of material for the Obama administration. And you know the opposition research folks have a file about as thick as the Manhattan Yellow Pages about what he has done and what he said one week versus another. So, yeah, it's going to dog him for the rest of the primary season.
Let me switch to topic two. Apparently, some members of the Tea Party and not happy with Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann. She's at the bottom of almost all of the polls out there. And one person with American Majority, one of the Tea Party organizations, says it is time for Michelle Bachmann to go. Her campaign has been plagued by losses. Every day the campaign flounders. It risks hurting the credibility of the movement. So now this is some members of the Tea Party versus the woman who was once referred to as the darling of the Tea Party. How can she hold on?
I do find it a little curious that that they would single out Michelle Bachmann. This is a pretty large Republican field with quite a number of people down in the single digits. Newt Gingrich is also in the single digits, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Paul, certainly. So, I think there will be some, including me, who wonder whether it's a coincidence that the one woman in the race is being asked to drop out. But it's worth pointing out that this is just one group in the Tea Party. It's not there is no single voice in the Tea Party that dictates who's going to be endorsed or not, and that's actually the argument that the Bachmann campaign has been making. I think probably most candidates would say, let's wait till some actual voting begins before we ask people to drop out.
And Peter, some might wonder if this Tea Party, and Ann makes that great point, this is just one of the Tea Party organizations or grassroots things that they have out there. If they are all putting their eggs in the basket of Herman Cain, Cain raised $3 million in just the month of October. I've heard somebody call him a phenomenon. Other people might use a different adjective. Nonetheless, he is hanging on despite, if Michelle Bachmann is a gaffe machine, he certainly has had a few of his own in the past few weeks.
Yeah, he has, but, it's a difference in presentation. I hate to say it. When Herman Cain speaks, he does it in a very authoritative way, and even when he's flip-flopping,
so it only matters the tone you use. You can say something that's bananas, and I'm not saying that anything individually that he has said is that, but if you say it with a tough voice itself, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think it really is. I mean, I think that Michelle Bachmann makes herself fodder for the late-night comics, and people are able to latch onto that because of her, I hate to say it, and again, this is coming from somebody who deals with communications strategies every day, the delivery and how you go about presenting your case. And I think that Cain always sounds very certain about his positions, and he's very declarative, and Bachmann seems to just latch on to some real sort of out there notions. And he comes back to 999. His message is very disciplined. He stays on it, even though when people question him about the validity of it and does it really carry water,
right,
he's able to stay on message. Bachmann has been all over the place, and that's her problem, really.
All right. Well, she is at the bottom of the polls. Herman Cain continued to surge in, especially some of the southern states as well. Thank you both. We greatly appreciate your time. Thanks, Ann. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Good to be here.